Hi there, and welcome to Her Season of Strength, where women over 40 reclaim their bodies, their energy, and their voices without apologies. I'm Kim Duffy, registered dietitian, personal trainer, mom, and your biggest hype woman when it comes to aging like you mean it. This show isn't about chasing skinny or counting wrinkles. It's about building real strength, physical, emotional, and hormonal. Each week, I'll share straight-talking nutrition tips, sustainable fitness strategies, and conversations that help you feel powerful in your skin once again. Menopause isn't an ending, it's only the beginning. This is your season of strength. Hello, and welcome back to Her Season of Strength. Thank you so much for taking just a minute or two to listen in. I appreciate you. So this past week has been very heavy. And if you don't know, I'm living up here in Minnesota. I'm not saying things are not crazy or heavy everywhere else right now in the world, but right now in Minnesota, we have a huge ice presence. And I'm not talking about snow and ice related to how flipping cold it is, because it's been very cold here. But the DHS border security presence is significant right now, just doing a huge anti-immigration campaign. And anyone who looks a little different, meaning color of their skin, different cultures, ethnicities, religion, clothing, are fearful to step outside their doors for fear of being taken by ICE. People are scared to leave their homes. Kids are afraid to go to school. Parents aren't going to work, to the grocery store. And then two innocent people, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, have been shot and killed just for protesting the injustice. Now, I'm not doing this podcast to upset anyone, to create a divide or talk about left versus right, because our country is so divided right now. And we really need to find a way to move away from that left versus right, the Democrat versus Republican. And instead, we need to find ways to come together. We need to find ways to talk about our differences. And instead of the anger, we need to find kindness. Because this hate and the vitriol is going to be the death of us. So just want to say here to start things off, if you're listening right now and you're feeling tired and overwhelmed and scared and angry, or like you're just barely holding things together, I want you to know I see you, I hear you, and you aren't alone. So as of my last episode, I was talking about my start of my Strong in 21 program, which was actually supposed to start this past Monday. If you haven't seen, my posts or my emails with everything going on, I decided to make a pivot. I decided to change things up because I needed an extra week to just get my thoughts together, to get my head back on straight. And so I pushed my program back a week. And the ways I changed it was I didn't want time to be an issue. So I actually decreased it from 21 days to 14 days. And I didn't want money to be a barrier for women to join, so I made it for free. Sounds a little silly, huh? Since it was no longer 21 days, I had to change the name, so it's now called Strong Start, and it's going to start on February 2nd. I've only been talking about it for just a few days, but there are already over 70 women who've signed up. So I'm guessing the change was one that resonated with women, and I'm incredibly excited to start with this. So since this is the last podcast episode that will come out before the Strong Start begins, I thought I would talk about a little bit about why strength matters for us right now, especially when life is feeling heavy. And I'm going to just tell just a little bit about a little of my story. So in 2011, my husband's job brought us to Vancouver, British Columbia. So it was just supposed to be a temporary position, 2 years, little adventure, a new experience for our family. But what we didn't know was that during that time, our youngest daughter, Cecilia, would get sick. She was diagnosed with leukemia back in the end of 2011. And she fought for 9 months, and 6 of those months we were living in the hospital. It was me and her living in the hospital together because she basically had to be in there and in isolation for the majority of her chemotherapy treatments. And if you've ever lived in a hospital room with your child, you know your world shrinks. Days blur together, time feels strange. You're constantly holding hope and fear in the same breath. And toward the end of Cecilia's life, my anxiety was overwhelming. I struggled to eat, not intentionally, not because I was trying to lose weight. I simply couldn't. I feel like I had a rock just sitting there in the middle of my stomach. So after she passed, we moved back to Minnesota, back to the same town, we didn't live in the same house, but the same town, just across the town, the same routines, but nothing felt the same. And I had, from all of the anxiety, from struggling to eat, I had lost a significant amount of weight, but it wasn't a healthy weight loss. I lost muscle. I mean, I was, when we were in the hospital, I was somewhat sedentary. I really couldn't do a lot of moving around in the one hospital room. We were, not eating well, especially at the end. And, losing that weight in that way, I just really messed with my metabolism. My nervous system was just in survival mode. And once I could eat again, that weight came back on very quickly. And, we know that when we gain that weight back, it's not going to come back as muscle. It came back as fat. And I want to say this clearly because so many women carry shame about their bodies without context. Trauma changes the body. Grief changes the body. Chronic stress changes the body. And yes, after that point, I turned to food for comfort because food is comforting. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Food addiction and emotional eating are real things. They're not lack of discipline, they're coping strategies. Often, the best ones we have at the time. But unfortunately, they can become habitual, even when that extreme stress or trauma or grief is, subsides to a degree. So we moved back, and I didn't start strength training until I was in my 40s. But that is what helped me begin to heal. It wasn't restriction. It wasn't another plan or a reset. It was movement. I joined a kickboxing gym, and I started lifting weights. And this was kind of my first real foray into strength training. I had, grabbed some dumbbells or jumped on some machines, random workouts, when we had gym memberships throughout my life, but never had a plan, never knew what I was doing, never, saw progress or saw results in any way, and I just kind of thought, I was working out, right? Strength training, I'm not saying it fixed my grief. It didn't erase what I had lost, but it gave me something really important, and that was just kind of a sense of agency, a feeling that my body could still do things. And it wasn't about changing how I looked. It was just about feeling like I lived inside my body again instead of just surviving inside of it. And this is the part that I really want to talk about today, because when we talk about strength, it's easy to imagine motivation, energy, good days. But what about the days when you don't want to? The days when you're exhausted before the day even starts, like from the moment you wake up. The days when grief or anxiety or, all these great menopausal hormonal symptoms are hitting us, or if we're having, times of high family stress, or like right now, world events, when things are feeling like just too much. The days when, getting off the couch feels harder than any workout ever could. If that's you, I see you. Strength on those days doesn't look like a crushing workout. It looks like choosing to move a little instead of not at all. It looks like, feeding yourself a balanced meal instead of skipping and then binging later. It looks like saying, today I'm not going to fix or overhaul everything. I'm just going to try to take care of myself. So some days strength is 5 minutes. Some days it's just, it's showing up, albeit imperfectly, but showing up. Some days it's asking someone for help. And that still counts, right? So right now there's a lot happening in Minnesota, in our communities in the world. And when things feel unsafe or uncertain, our bodies go into that fight or flight protection mode. And we're going to reach for comfort wherever we can find it, whether that's food or alcohol or distraction or busyness, or, sometimes it's isolation. We just want to be alone. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human in a stressful time. It's your coping mechanism, right? Coping alone is exhausting. And this is why community matters. This is why structure matters. This is why learning how to fuel your body and move it with intention matters. Not to control it, but just to give it some support. Because self-care right now, it's not about perfection. It's about, eating something, eating balanced meals so that your brain feels like it's being fueled. Your blood sugars are steadier so that you feel calmer. It's about, strength training so your body feels capable and resilient. Like it can do things. And it's about showing yourself that same compassion that you're giving everyone else. It's not indulgence. This is survival with dignity. So if you are in need of just a little community, a little something to kind of help you to pull yourself up, to pick yourself up, even if it's just in a small way, I'd love for you to come and join us in Strong Start. It's not a transformation program. It's not this end-all be-all fix, but it's just kind of a place to begin again with support. And it's for women in midlife who want to find that strength without punishment. They want to find that energy without restriction and deprivation. They want to find that structure without so much pressure. So it's a community of women who understand, they understand what we're going through in this season of life. And many of us, we're tired of doing it all by ourselves. So I'll tell you, if you're reaching for comfort right now, I want you to know there's another option, not instead of compassion, but alongside it. Because we're all carrying something, whether it's loss or stress or fear, uncertainty. And your body remembers and it responds. Strength training and fueling my body, well, it didn't erase my grief, but they helped me to feel steady enough to keep moving forward. So if you're listening and thinking, you know what, maybe it's time I take care of myself too, I see you. Remember, this is about progress over perfection. We are in this for the long haul, and this is your season of strength. I hope you have a fantastic day. And if you would like to join us in the Strong Start program, I will put the link in the show notes. Take care.